This is a narrated slideshow of purchasing and restoring 2005 Honda Recon in Starburst Yellow. I bought the Recon in Minot, Maine. I didn't get a very good look at it at the time. The electronic shift didn't work. The engine was filled with chocolate milk water. There were some problems for sure, but it looked like it was worth restoring. I looked up parts for the Recon to make sure they were available on Partzilla and other websites prior to the purchase to make sure that I could fix it up the way that I wanted to. It had a sticker that had been repaired at a custom cycle shop in a town in Maine that I wasn't familiar with. I kept that on throughout the process, and it's still on there now. When I got the plastics off, I found a pretty rusty mess. It was flaking off all over the place. It looked like it needed some love. At this time, I noticed there was some damage to the rubber plug for the wires that go into the stator. I would RTV those just to seal them back up. I tried to make sure that I didn't get too much RTV in there, just enough to really seal that up so water wouldn't be leaking into the engine. Apparently, that's probably what happened to fill the motor up with so much water. So the ESC didn't work, the electronic shift. I figured it was the angle sensor, as it usually is. I ordered some parts, got what I needed online, got them on the way at least. Got things plugged up, got it ready to be washed. Had it on the ATV stand to check it out structurally. Overall, it was in pretty good shape. Just a couple of things that were wrong with it. I noticed when I picked it up, it was missing the skid plate. I found that soon after I removed the bolts to install the new one. It had completely rusted away. I've never seen that before. And this is all that was left of it. The ESC computer, the brain box, was just floating around up front. It wasn't even zip tied or anything. There's a rubber enclosure that goes around it that holds it into place. The only thing that I could really tell it was damaged from rust were the mounting brackets for that. I ended up just zip tying this in its rubber holder to the frame, and it seems to be working okay. Well, I started cleaning it, and it cleaned up okay. It really revealed how much rust there was. Something I hadn't really seen before. The picture showing it wet doesn't really do it justice. When it all dried out, you could really tell how severe the rust was. The plastics cleaned up okay. They seem to have this like weird grease film on them, which required some hand scrubbing to get off, and I never really got it all off, but to a point where it looks presentable. So I'd suds it up with a foam cannon, I'd wash it, I'd pressure wash it. I did that a couple of times before bringing it back in. And once I got it back in, I got it on the stand. I took the tires off and brought those to Walmart to have the new tires mounted and started to dry it out. I let it dry out overnight, maybe even a couple nights with a fan on, before I would go ahead and hit it with the rust reformer in the black. I had the racks and everything else all pulled off and had the old trusty dusty lifetime table out. A couple of pieces of cardboard to overspray on the sides of. Yep. And I hit them with the same black that I've used previously. Both the high temp for the exhaust, which seems to cover up all battle wounds and scars. And then the racks I just hit with the satin finish black, which seems to match the Honda rack black well. Here's a quick before shot before the rust reformer. I tried to take a comparable picture after. Didn't get the angle exactly right. Perfection wasn't what I was going for here. I didn't touch the shocks at all. I left those out of it. I didn't take off the regulator rectifier, as you can see here. I left a lot of parts on, and I didn't get too crazy with it. I touched it up to look presentable, and it does now. It absolutely does. With the wheels on and the tires, you can't really tell that it was once, on its way out the door. It really cleaned up nicely. I hit the wheels with the same gray as I've used previously. It's a gloss gray, but it has like a pretty mellow tone. It's not very shiny. And then it was time to start putting it back together. It went together pretty nicely. After I got the wheels back from Walmart, I rolled it back out and decided it was worth giving it a shot to brighten the aluminum on the engine. I got a product at Napa, aluminum brightener. I've seen YouTube videos of people using it, and looks like they got pretty good results with it. I gave it a shot, and it helped. I'm not sure if I'll do it again on any future ATVs. It really etched the aluminum pretty good. I tried to be pretty conscious of washing it off after and everything, and it seemed to etch it pretty good. These are some before and afters that don't show it too well because of the lighting, but it made a noticeable difference. While I was at Napa picking up the aluminum brightener, I had the guy there test the battery with their digital tester, and it tested good, so I didn't buy a new battery. I continued reassembling the unit, putting parts back on, changing out parts that I had ordered, like the angle sensor. Forgot the O-ring on this one. I remember a boss of mine when I worked at a power sports dealership telling me, you always got to get the O-ring with this too. I forgot that, so I reused the old one. It seemed to be okay. If I ever change it again in the future, I'll remember. Really lucked out with everything working. The pedal came off pretty easy. Everything went back together pretty clean. But there was something missing, and it was the decals. It was missing one of the side panels. It was missing decals, and they were flaking off. I got some reproduction ones on eBay, and they would come a little bit later. These photos show how nice it turned out. I got the trailer hitch and the skid plate, all the parts it was missing. I put everything back on the way it would have been on there when it was new. Here the decals are going back on. 2005 was the last year that the state of Maine did actual metal license plates for ATV registrations. They don't do it anymore, but I got a couple of plates on eBay as just kind of a cool decoration thing, more or less. I put one on this four-wheeler and my other rancher as well. I brought it over to my in-laws' house and just tooled around their yard a little bit to make sure that everything went okay. And when I did, I had a problem with it. I had some type of carburation issue that I couldn't diagnose in the field. I couldn't think through it. When I was putting the ATV back together and reinstalling the carburetor, I didn't hook up the vent lines correctly, and that led to the running issue. After fixing the carburation issue, I took it out on some trails, and I had an electric shift issue. And it really killed my spirit. Great, here I am, everything was working fine, now all of a sudden it isn't. I've got a intermittent electrical issue, it seems, that the angle sensor replacement didn't fix. I think they call that gremlins. I brought it back home, did some further diagnosis, tested some parts, the electric shift motor, really started chasing things down, disconnected electrical connectors, was close to replacing the computer. I actually bought and installed an electric shift bypass kit, and that didn't work either. And that helped me diagnose the problem. I had a electrical connector that had oxidized, and it lost connection. I sprayed it down with electronic cleaner and put some dielectric grease in there, and everything's been fine since. I've had the ATV out on a couple of 20 plus mile trips. Once was along the lower Androscoggin River, And the other trip was from Mechanic Falls through some surrounding towns. Very beautiful. I'll be taking the Recon to the Down East Sunrise Trail in a couple of weeks with some buddies and looking forward to seeing how it performs. I've always liked Honda Recons. I've had 3 of them, this being my 4th. I've always liked the simplicity and nostalgia of them. I really enjoyed restoring this Honda Recon. I look forward to riding it for years to come.